Now let's dive deep into this big LGBTQ plus story for today. I'm Edward Ottozelke, and let's queer up gay culture. Kennedy Center controversy sparks unlikely call for diversity and inclusion from Trump ally. Vice President J.D. Vance arrived at the Kennedy Center in Washington, D.C. during a National Symphony Orchestra concert. He was met with loud boos on Thursday night, sending a clear message of resistance from the audience. Vance visited the performance with his wife, and many report she was visibly distressed by the reaction from the audience. The situation took a surprise turn when Kennedy Center interim president Richard Grenell, a prominent Trump ally, responded by calling for diversity and inclusion. Let's pause a moment and take that in. Richard Grenell asked for respect for J.D. Vance at Kennedy Center because of respect for diversity and inclusion. Grenell, who was appointed to his position by Trump's board of trustees, sent an internal email to the Kennedy Center staff the next morning expressing disappointment over the audience's reaction to Vance and his wife. He wrote, quote, "I received several messages from Kennedy Center staffers sharing their embarrassment over more than a few Symphony patrons loudly booing the vice president and his wife last night. We must work to make the Kennedy Center a place where everyone is welcomed." End quote. Grenell, known for his vocal opposition to progressive policies, suddenly embraced diversity. He said, quote, "As president, I take diversity and inclusion very seriously. We must welcome everyone at the Kennedy Center." This sudden pivot to inclusivity raised eyebrows, especially in the light of the Trump administration's ongoing dismantling of queer and diversity initiatives. Critics point to the irony of Grenell's statement giving the recent erasure of LGBTQ plus programming at the Kennedy Center, including the canceled events like the WorldPride concert and the Gay Men's Chorus of Washington's performance. Well,
unpack that there, Edward.
I know there's a lot to unpack there, but I guess when you're a gay Republican, you can just kind of like pick and choose what, things are important to you. That's what I kind of feel like. And, I think that, sitting on the fence on these type of issues is really annoying. It's kind of like, you have to embrace the whole community. And that's what it really boils down to with me. It's just, and you know what, if somebody doesn't like the fact that somebody shows up at an event that is run by the arts, which is prominently gay. A lot of queer artists, you wouldn't have this type of culture without the queer community.
Nope.
What do you expect?
Yeah.
If you show up at an event and people boo you, oh, well, we're sorry. Well, we're sorry too.
Yeah, I don't understand why they have, or the current administration has such a hard-on over the Kennedy Center, right? The Kennedy Center Honors has always been something that I have looked forward to. It's always been a fabulous night. It's always been, beautifully attended and all that kind of stuff. I always like seeing the clips and the videos the next day and all that fun stuff, right? But, like you said, the arts are, God, we can always say the history of the arts, right, has been brought on by queer folks, What did you expect was going to happen, right? When you went, Vance, what did you expect? And so Trump went today to tour the Kennedy Center for the first time. Because, by the way, he also appointed himself chair, right? Of course, right? And he says he's very disappointed while touring the Kennedy Center today. He goes, this place is in tremendous despair, as is a lot of the rest of our country. Most of it because of bad management.
Amazing.
Yeah. As he lays waste to government programs and puts people out of jobs and, increases unemployment. The double standard is just beyond the pale. What they want to do, despite how it looks, it's okay for them to do. But if anybody else on, the other side, so to speak, wants to do it, it's illegal, it's immoral, and it's improper.
Well, I wouldn't go necessarily to Donald Trump for any type of taste, let alone the arts. So that's the last thing that I want to do. I mean, I certainly wouldn't, decorate my house in like golden brick shower piss type of, smell, but I mean, that's just me.
To each their own, right?
Exactly.
What kind of events do you expect that are going to start happening at the Kennedy Center? I mean, like boring, I just, without queers, you don't have entertainment.
It'll be fun to watch.
Straight up.
Sounds like what he's going to do next is close it for renovation, and then you won't see it open again for 4 or 5 years.
Or it'll be the Trump Museum. Right. It'll be a la Kim Jong-un. Yeah. You know what I mean? Wow. Well, that is the big LGBTQ story for today. There is no other queer nonprofit media platform like this in the entire world. Support our LGBTQ stories by subscribing and sharing Queer News Tonight.